when I first thought about, oh, what do I want to study? What do I want to become? Where am I heading to? And my dad was saying, oh, what about a teacher? Oh, this is great. And one of the first things he said was, you can combine it so well with family. Even back then, it made me mad because I thought, why should I choose a career that is very well combinable with family? I want to choose what I like. And that's what I did.
Hello, and welcome to Speaking of Supply Chain, where we explore trends, current events, and innovations impacting the logistics and supply chain industries. I'm your host, Ellen Wood. Today, we are doing something a little bit different for International Women's Day. This episode highlights the journeys, challenges, and triumphs of women in a traditionally male-dominated industry. Through their stories, we're going to explore what inspired them to enter the field, the obstacles they've overcome, and their hopes for the future. Welcome to this special International Women's Day episode, where we're speaking with incredible women from across Miebach Consulting. These leaders, consultants, and innovators share their experiences working in a traditionally male-dominated industry, offering insights on challenges, progress, and what still needs to change. Throughout this episode, you'll hear the stories in their own words. But before we dive in, let's take a moment to recognize that change doesn't happen in isolation. Gender diversity is not just about women supporting women. It's about everyone working together to create an inclusive environment. Our male allies play a crucial role in this progress, whether through mentorship, advocacy, or simply ensuring all voices are heard. As we hear from these women about what drew them to supply chain and logistics, consider this. How can we all, regardless of our gender, champion diversity in our workplaces?
I think career is something that that I definitely wanted to talk about. I looked at your questions and the inspirations for this talk, and I had many different thoughts on my mind. For example, when you say what inspired you to pursue this career and how did it unfold, and I think it was a very interesting journey. I thought back about when I first thought about, oh, what do I want to study? What do I want to become? Where am I heading to? And my dad was saying, oh, what about a teacher? Oh, this is great. And one of the first things he said was, you can combine it so well with family. I'm like, and I mean, this was like, I graduated in 99, right? So it was still some time ago, but even back then it made me mad because I thought, why should I choose a career that is very well combinable with family? I want to choose what I like, and that's what I did. And it's not like that my family disagreed or that they tried to make me choose a different path. And I think it was the right path. Um, Entering then the world of consulting, yes, I have thought about, oh, how is this going to end? This is probably a super interesting, but also quite stressful job. And how long am I going to be doing this? And by now, I've been doing this for 17 years. It's crazy. And it has been an extremely interesting journey because the nature of consulting, you always have different projects and you have always new customers and new clients. So sometimes it's sad to see a client go, but sometimes you're like, gosh, good thing this is over. Right? Off
On
to
to the
new
next
worlds.
thing. Yes.
So luckily, I never got pushed back at all. So I always got support in the ways I wanted to choose, which I think I'm very lucky for. Also like from my family and from all the sides. So for me, yeah, since I'm young, it was quite clear that I want to go somehow into science or engineering, so something kind of technical. Already during school, I was more like the mathematics and physics girl, and not maybe that much like the language girl. Um, so that path was always kind of in front of me, and yeah, luckily my parents, they supported it, so they never tried me to push me into any other direction. They both also scientists, so maybe that also helped. And
Probably.
in general, I also agree with Christina. It's important that we go the path we want to go. Doesn't matter, or don't think, not thinking about, can we do that as a woman? Can we in one day um, combine it with a family. I think when we're just going it and we figure it out at the end, that's the way how we make the change at the end. Not,
Hmm.
yeah, exactly, not trying to, yeah, avoid these maybe complicated ways, but just do what we like to do.
50-50. I didn't notice anything over there. Once I came back to Chile, I had to rethink what I wanted to do. It was the first time because I finished the university, I moved there, I kept studying, and then I moved to here. And one of when you were asking me what made you think about supply chain, I think it was one class that I had in the university that it was so cool, so interesting, and it was about all the logistics. And I said, okay, I'm going to go through that field, I think. And on the other hand, I really loved consultancy because, like everybody else will tell you, it's so cool to have different projects all the time, and you're working with different people permanently, and also you are constantly learning so many things.
How I came to logistics and especially also consulting, there was not one defining moment that made me choose this industry. It was more that during my studies, I had the impression then that with working as a consultant, you become really good in what you're doing. And I wanted to become good. So consulting was the first direction for me after my master's degree. And logistics, why did I choose logistics? I really like boxes. I like boxes, like where you can put, I don't know, where you can put just your private things in and organize your home. So that was one big part, but also I always associated logistics with organizing, which I am good at, and that drove me to that direction. But of course, now my work is including much more than organizing. It's planning, analyzing, explaining, everything.
But it's everything you love, just in a bigger scale.
Exactly, yeah.
For some, the path to supply chain was clear from the start, while for others, like myself, found their way here unexpectedly. But regardless of how they arrived, their journeys share a common thread: the drive to tackle complex challenges and to make an impact. Of course, working in this field as a woman often comes with unique obstacles. Let's hear about some of the challenges these professionals have faced and how they've navigated them.
Yeah, I was thinking about the obstacles, and I remember a few, but I'm not completely sure if it was be- because I was a female or because I was too young. Because you know that this is the only place that your gray hair is very valuable. In different other jobs, they said you're too old for this, and they want to dismiss you. But here, all your clients really value that all the experience that you have. So that could be a difference. But I remember in my very first project, it was a team of female, but the manager I was working with, she had a lot of experience. And this client, I was absolutely invisible for him. And I hated it. I will go to with her to the office of, and he will not say hello. He will not look at me. I was nobody. And it was so painful for me. I felt horrible all the time, but I think it was because I was too young. Um, it's when you start working very, very hard so you are noticeable.
I just wanted to say something. Regarding the question, can you share a challenge you faced as a woman in this industry and how you overcame it? I just wanted to say that the biggest challenge that I had in my entire career in the industry was not even from men. It was from women.
Ooh.
As a woman, my challenges came from women. My biggest challenges. So this is something that I wanted to mention.
In a good way or in a bad way?
No, in a bad way. No, in bad situation, bad challenges, that came from women, not even men. Exactly. So we're not a lot in the industry.
especially in leadership roles and leadership seats. But when we are, please, we need to be more, how do we say, solidaire? We need to be more,
Solidarity.
yeah.
We need to have more solidarity.
Yeah.
I'll define, right, our industry, our roles, because it could be many things. If I just narrow it down to supply chain, or I narrow it down to consulting, or to both, yeah. I don't think there are necessarily barriers that have been created, but there are nuances to our work that deters from a lot of preferences, which the result is it naturally creates a shift that you can then call maybe there's a barrier, but there isn't. It's just deterrence that naturally leaves you to choose something else. So within the supply chain world, I find it's so rare, like varied, that any preference, right? You'll find your role in it, whether you're a more proactive person or more passive person, whether you want your environment to be very well defined or more open. All of those positions are in there. However, I do see whenever we go to trade shows that is a predominantly male dominated still environment. So that in itself could still be a deterrent, but there's more and more opportunities. So I want to say in this case, it's not the supply chain world per se, but rather the opportunities that the companies give so that they can attract more women and their realities and their situations. Then it goes consulting in itself, which it is heavily known for fluctuating. Like, of course you have flexibility in scheduling, but it's like fluctuating workloads, there is management, there is not much stability, which, not to define gender roles in itself, a lot of women do find themselves in maybe personal situations where externally they require establishment of schedules or being home and not traveling for whatever reason. And that in itself may be something that whenever you choose or you reach a certain level in your career, you say, oh, this worked for me for a period of time, for another period of time it's not going to work for me, and then maybe later on it works for me again. So ultimately my opinion is there aren't really walls. It's more job situational activities that lead certain women or a lot of women to say, this is not for me anymore, and then you leave.
What I like about that is that those circumstances are constantly changing. It's very dynamic. And to your point, something that might not be conducive for a particular, time in your life. For myself, when I had very young children, like I wouldn't have been able to travel, and as they got older I was able to travel, and then I had another baby and I wasn't able to travel for a little while, but now I'm able to travel again. And these are all things that have been afforded to me in my career. I've never felt that I wasn't allowed to pursue that particular career path because of it, but I have had to be very conscious about selecting what I allow into my scope of my life, and what I can handle.
Mhm.
And I think that Miebach as an organization has always been very supportive of, can you handle this, or do we need to scale back? And when you're ready, are you ready to take this on? Okay, now you may have it. So I agree with that 100%, that it's nothing the industry or even the educational system is putting in our way. It's more, we have to choose at some point. There's going to be a choice that has to be made, and we have the opportunity to make those choices and own the actions thereafter.
As you can imagine, I've been in this industry for 20, I think 28 years or something like that. So it's been a while. And in my experience, I've had everything. I've had great experiences, I've had really awkward experiences, and I've had difficult experiences. I mean, all of them, from, having to kind of uh, make yourself colder or have an appearance that did not invite for anything. But also, I've had great experiences. I've had a couple of mentors in my life that have been really good, both men and women. And I think those need to be spoken about. And I've also had leaders that were not so good that I had to confront. Also, one of the things that I didn't like for quite some time is that because I decided not to be a mom, that they used me as an example with the younger ones, because I felt that was not right. I felt that it's a choice. It shouldn't be that because you are available all the time, then they should use you with the younger ones to also be available all the time and take away their choice, which, I don't find it to be correct. And also have to hear many comments saying that pretty much if you become a mom, you're not able to work in this world anymore, well, in this business rather, in this sector anymore. Also that, I had to confront those type of situations quite often and fight for them and say, hey, that's not right. We cannot do it with your mentality, but it's definitely something that can be done, and we have to encourage them to do it. So, and the good thing is that with new, at least in Spain, with the new leave of absence laws for men, that has changed quite a bit. That has helped a lot because they get the same amount of time off, men and women. So that way it's much more difficult to discriminate when that happens.
From being underestimated to being the only woman in the room, these challenges are all too common. But progress is happening. More women are stepping into leadership, advocating for inclusivity, and pushing for real change. But how does this change happen? It starts with awareness and action. Organizations need to foster environments where everyone, regardless of gender, has the opportunity to succeed. So, what have our guests seen in terms of progress?
Something I don't want to deny is that historically there have been very specific gender roles, right? Maybe women stay behind, they don't work, they take care of the children, they take care of the house. I think nowadays those gender roles are traditionally still there, but a lot of people choose not to follow them. And that's okay. We, as a society altogether, especially in North America, we're accepting that you can choose whatever path you want to choose as a person, not just as a woman or as a man, as a person. You can choose whatever path. And that is really great because then that allows you to make the choices that you're talking about, Helen. So if we're talking about children or time dedicated to do X, Y, Z, see how I'm very vague in my examples because I don't want to select for somebody else. But if I want to select my time to be dedicated to something else, then I am happy to make that choice. And then I make it a choice as a person, not society defining it for me or my job not allowing me to make those.
In the past, we had this mindset in which only men worked hard and women had other goals in life. And I see this, it's changing, fortunately, also very much with the new generations. And everything's just fine. There are men that have also other goals in life and women who also like to work hard. So I'm very happy to see how the new generations are bringing these topics to our agendas, to our discussions. And I'd say it's not a linear way of approaching it. It's just considering that there are different goals in life or opinions or life situations, which it's not only related to gender. I still see those barriers. When I speak to women in consulting, there still exists this difference between a woman in consulting, especially as an engineer or in supply chain and logistics, in which it's mostly men industry still. I'm very happy to see that there are every time more and more women in this field, but I know there still exists this barrier, and I feel it's very important from our leaderships, our leaders and our leadership to empower these women in consulting in front of our clients, our audiences, our publics, our external publics, to give these women the power to lead their projects, their clients, to manage different situations, and not to have it limited, to men, which usually happened in the past.
I slowly see more women being present in the logistics in management positions, and I also see more campaigns with the focus on supporting women, not only in Miebach, but also in other companies with, let's say, an engineering focus. Doesn't need to be only logistics, but with this more technical engineering focus. And I think this increases in general the visibility of women in logistics and engineering, which I think is very important because it's I think it's not only to help women in this engineering or technical topics. I think it's really to support in terms of having female role models and mentors to look up. And I think, yeah, with this development I see in the last years, I think this is going in the right direction.
We still need to have more representation, like in the higher manager level. I think we're missing that part yet. So, but we're working for that.
I agree. I spoke with one of our other colleagues this morning, saying that for an organization that that we do focus a lot on continuous improvement, both for our clients and internally. We are always looking to improve processes, cut waste, streamline, but looking for improvement at every step of growth. And that is one thing that we do continue to look at is, are we looking for, and are we teaching, are we enabling, are we training our female members on what it requires in order to take some of these leadership positions and some of these more managerial roles? Are we giving the women the opportunity to sit at that table, as opposed to just saying, oh no, that's where the men play? And we don't. We look for ways to encourage the women in our organization to reach and to expand their careers and their capabilities beyond maybe what they thought they would do. I mean, a consultant doesn't usually go into it saying, I'm going to be a shareholder of my consultancy in 15 years. That's my goal. Perhaps they do. But, a lot of times it's just following, as you said, following what you enjoyed doing and where you felt that you wanted to participate in your career, and finding the places that really felt best, whether it's that one supply chain class that did it for you and brought you into the logistics area, just following that. Oh, this is interesting and I want to do this, or this is interesting and I want to try that. And finding out where it leads you without having any ceiling that you're going to come up against to say, this is as far as you get to go. The landscape is shifting, and companies like Miebach are playing a role in making that happen. But as we move forward, what else can we do to support women in supply chain and logistics? Beyond individual career growth, real progress comes from organizational change. Here's some advice for companies that truly want to make a difference.
Actually, I haven't gotten the certification yet, but I did put the effort to study, and I could see, and even he recognized as to, wow, you've maybe 6 months later, I had a significant growth in those areas. And then afterwards, he was no longer my boss for other different reasons, but at least that allowed me to have an incredible growth in 6 months, just simply because I was very annoyed at the no.
Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
Yeah, something like that. But opportunity or not, is it resulted in what I actually needed at the end of the day, but not in a happy way. I feel like there's so many other ways you could motivate someone to learn, but it had a good result.
Exactly. He could have said yes, and you'd have been like, oh, okay, I guess I'm doing this. And it would have been the same result, but with a different attitude behind it, a different drive.
Exactly.
I still don't know. Do you really have to work harder because of you are a female or not? I'm not sure. But once he discovered that I was doing a good job, then he started treating me differently. And at some point, I moved from being nobody to Carolita, which was like a very nice way to call me. And I was like, Carolita, how are you today? I was like, wow, that's an important step for me.
Yeah, that's an important step in everyone's career.
Yeah, absolutely. Or we have these other clients that every time we will go to his office, again, I was working with the same female manager, and he would say, "Oh, these little girls are coming here again," and you will feel like, is this right or is this not correct the way that you're treating us? And then he will say, oh, everything that you are presenting to us, I already know all this information. No, you're not doing anything extra for us, whatever. And once we started developing the project, then we won his trust, and then he realized, okay, these two girls are really doing a good job. He kept using the little girl's phrase till the end, but at least he changed the way he treated us because he knew we were working really hard to give him a good solution.
What keeps me here today at Miebach and the supply chain consulting, it's the different projects and the goals we are working for our clients. Our projects often have a very big impact on our clients' business and are therefore very important for our clients. And this gives them a high priority. They have a clear start, a clear goal to work towards, and this I find really fulfilling and rewarding to work for those kind of projects. And of course, what is the best for me, because I'm working in our engineering services, the best is really to, in a realization phase, to see become live and become reality what you've planned for months and years before. That is really the best part for me.
Those moments of recognition, when you realize your work matters, your contributions are valued, and you belong, are what make the challenges all worthwhile. But to create more of these moments for future generations, we need to keep pushing for progress. What barriers still exist, and how can we break them?
It was mainly male dominated, the supply chain and the logistic. And I want to show that even being feminine, we can fully be part of this world. For example, people picture a truck driver as, I mean, a male or at least a female that looks like a male. No, we can still be feminine even working in a world mainly dominated by male. So we I don't want to sacrifice my femininity for that.
If we're talking about barriers, because I was saying I don't really think there are necessarily barriers in itself, it's just choices. But if there was a barrier I would select, would be the expectation. There are so many, because of these traditional gender roles allocation. You said you imagine a truck driver, you imagine a male, maybe you think about a nurse, and you think about a woman, right? Um, that would be the stereotype that I would try to break. A profession is a profession, a job is a job. Why do we have these expectations of the identity of the person that fills these roles? For example, that would be the one that I would shatter.
I say, as an advice, I would suggest all women to always speak up their opinions, their points of view, to address if they are not feeling comfortable with a situation, with a person, with anything, to speak it up, to also find those people in which they can feel comfortable to address topics, to speak topics. I feel in my role as a human resources professional, I also have this responsibility to be next to women, to also accompany them whenever they have a situation in which we can work it out together. So yeah, my advice would be to never to always speak up what they feel.
But we need to have more, at least a couple of female MDs, right? So you can see that there's more than.
Are you applying for that? Are you vying for that job?
No. But on the other hand, I have to say that all these flexibility models that we've been working for people development, it's developing also in favor of females and their trying to balance with their own families when you want to have babies. I have two kids, and I never felt left behind because I wanted to be a mother. So it's been a nice place so far, and I hope other candidates can notice how great this is, and that we have a nice company that takes care of you. So and we are aware of this situation.
Yeah. And I forget who I was speaking to. It was one of the other interviews I did yesterday. And she said that the better balance of parental leave to include men has actually done more than doing anything for the women, because then the men get to experience that. They see that parenthood is something that they should be, a part of their families. But not only that, they understand the sacrifices that people, male or female, do make for their families in order to advance their careers and put in the effort at work. And it's not gender based, it's just work. Having a family is work, and it requires parents, and it requires a workplace that gives you that flexibility to be there for your kids when they get sick or when they have a school play. And it shouldn't just be the moms doing that. It should absolutely be the fathers being present in their children's lives. And the more that we open that up to them and have them into the traditional mom spaces, I think the more mom spaces are going to open up in various companies to enable the women to then achieve those higher statuses within their organization because of that flexibility that you were just mentioning.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
The road to equity isn't just about increasing representation. It's about changing the structures that make it difficult for women to rise. From wage gaps to outdated expectations, there's still work to be done. So, what's the next step? Let's hear from these women on the barriers they see and what they believe needs to change to create a truly inclusive industry.
For me, the one that comes to mind was not, I don't want to say it was a turning point in my career or so impactful, but when I think back, it really has shaped the way my career goes into that. And basically, I was told, find your personal brand. Yeah, what defines you and what other people take away when they meet with you. So I went ahead and I did it. And I think the reason why you can imagine why it's not so impactful, but it shapes my career. It's because it gives me this both levels of curiosity. Of it started the curiosity of who I am, what do I want to leave behind with the people I interact with, and that has always been very important for me. And it also has a component of self-compassion as well. I am a certain way, and that's okay because that defines my branding. And a lot of people will find that useful if I use it in an empowering way, for example.
The biggest piece of advice that I had in my career was from a woman. So she used to be one of my manager and mentor. When I used to manage a 3PL on a daily basis, I used to do lots of garbage hours, if I can say, and not being very efficient and productive. And she was a very strong and independent woman. And I was always like, how are you able to manage your workday so efficiently and so productively? And she told me, you need to read the 4-Hour Worksheet by Tom Ferriss. So work smarter and work harder. And I think that was the biggest piece of advice that she gave to me, because that kind of helped me, okay, prioritize things better. Uh, and that helped me also go through my daily challenges within the warehouse. So I think that was one of the biggest piece of advice that she gave to me.
I think it's following what you're really interested in and what makes you happy, and what you enjoy doing. And it doesn't matter what field it is, what industry it is. I think the most important thing is that it makes you happy, because I think if people are happy, they can do the best as they can do, and they can be the best and also inspire others. I would tell this to young women: don't hear about what others say if you should or shouldn't do anything. Just try to hear in your inner self what you really enjoy and where you feel good, and the rest will figure out for itself.
The future of this industry depends on diverse voices, and women are shaping it every day. But we can't do it alone. Change happens when companies commit to inclusivity, when allies amplify underrepresented voices, and when each of us encourages the next generation to follow their passion. That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much to my colleagues, the ladies at Miebach, for sharing their experiences and insights with us today. If you have a suggestion for a topic or would like to be a guest on our show, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact me at podcast@miebach.com at any time. As always, thanks for listening to Speaking of Supply Chain. If you enjoyed our show, please rate and review us on whatever podcast platform you prefer, Apple Podcasts, Google, or Spotify, and be sure to tune in next time.